David Nelson is a free agent wide receiver who spent several years with the Bills and then a couple of seasons with the Jets and is now waiting for a new home. But as I was talking to a friend of mine recently who has a connection to David, I realized that he's got another passion. Football is just only part of what he does, and I wanted to get the chance to ask him about it on the show. So we're really excited to have David joining us now. And David, why don't we start with some football first? 11 of 16 games in week number 1 were decided by a touchdown or less, and 4 of those games were settled by a single point. So you're inside this NFL fraternity, even as you're a free agent. What's your reaction to that kind of drama in the opening weekend?
Wow. I mean, it's just that. I mean, that's what is so good about the NFL. And that's what's so good is that it's such a small margin of difference between teams. And that's, like they always say, any given Sunday, I mean, you have the New England Patriots, whose starting Hall of Fame quarterback wasn't there, and defensive end was suspended. And they just didn't have all the pieces, but yet still find a way to win the game. And that's what's so beautiful about the NFL is that week in and week out, you have different superstars, different guys step up. And when one player is not there, another player just steps up. And that's what's so good about the NFL. And not just from like a close margin, but you saw with the San Diego game and giving the game away in that situation. I mean, teams just continue to fight back when you think it's out of reach. It's 24-10. The game is never over. And so the first week, I think, was so much fun to watch, and I think it's going to be setting up for a great season.
I hear all the time players say it's really difficult to win one game. Forget a championship, even making the playoffs, but it's really difficult just to win one game. How difficult is it to get out there in this type of a competitive environment and win those games week after week? And sometimes it's quick turnaround, too, with the Thursday games.
You're exactly right. And that's what is – it's a difficult dynamic just because football and the NFL specifically is so mental. There's such a huge focus on the mental aspect. In college football, I think there's a 20-hour-a-week rule. You have classes, you have different extracurricular activities, and then coaches are limited in how much they can really have you in this classroom and film. But whenever you get to the NFL, I mean, you're there 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. And it's just so mentally taxing after training camp, before preseason games, and then a 16-week season. It's difficult. And so, I mean, I know from experience, just in 2011, when my second year in Buffalo, we started the season 4-0. We had beaten Oakland, we beaten New England, and had a really good start. We finished that season 6-10. And so how do you start a season 4-0 and then continue to go and finish the season 6-10? And that's just because it's every week you have to get yourself back up and yes, you're playing against the best in the world each and every single week, and that's why you love playing the game. You're at the pinnacle of your profession, but to be able to do that and perform at a high level each and every single week, that whenever your body in week 12 starts to fail, there's a saying in the locker room that nobody come week 6 or week 7, nobody in the NFL is 100%, and everybody's playing at 80% or 70%, nursing some type of injuries, but they're playing through that. And so having to find a way to play through that, but also mentally get yourself up. Okay, well, we just lost. Okay, you have to get past that, and 3 days later play another team. And so it's just a quick thing in the NFL. You got to have a fast memory and just move forward and move quickly.
I'm glad you said that because already in week number 1, there are some season-ending injuries that are fairly devastating for teams, not just quarterbacks, but, Keenan Allen, who's same position as you with the San Diego Chargers, already has a torn ACL. Some of it is luck. Some of these are freak injuries. But what type of steps do players take to be as healthy as possible and make it all the way through a regular season?
Man, that's a great question. And that's what the offseason is so important. That's why it's so valuable. And I think that with the new CBA and the new steps that the NFL and the NFLPA are partnering together to implement, when I first got into the league, it was my first year, my rookie year, was the last year of two-a-days. I think you've seen just a substantial decrease in the amount of season-ending injuries since that's happened. When that was going on, you had players that were falling out in training camp. And when we got into week 1 for the NFL season, guys' bodies were worn out. They were beaten. It was just so taxing and so difficult. And now with the way it currently stands and the time off and the OTAs and minicamp the way it is, non-contact, it's definitely helping. But it's placing more of an emphasis on the individual players to get ready, because the coaches aren't able to, as a group, collectively get their players ready, whether it be tackling, whether it be getting hit, whether it be weights and workouts, because they're limited in the offseason of how much they can really do contact-wise. So it's putting an extra emphasis on players and veterans to do what they have to do off the field so that they're ready to go. And so not to say that guys are getting hurt, didn't do their job, and didn't do things in the offseason. Sometimes, like you said, it's a freak accident. But you're starting to see a much more guys place much more emphasis on their body and what they're putting in their body so that they can sustain themselves for a 20-week season.
Right. Free agent wide receiver David Nelson with us here after hours. I'm Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. So when might we see you back on the field?
Hopefully this week. That would be ideal, right?
That would be.
That's what I'm hoping for, and I'm in the best shape of my life, and it's been a little bit since I've been on the field, but I've been training, I've been working out, and my agent and I have fielded a couple of calls from a few different teams, and right now we're just waiting for the right fit. And unfortunately, it's a difficult dynamic because you never want to hope for somebody to get released. You never want to hope for somebody to get hurt, but that's just the reality of our business. And it's crazy and it's difficult. As I'm watching these games, I'm seeing these players drop a pass and, I get a text message from a friend saying, that might be a place for you. And so it's trying to balance that and trying to obviously never root against someone, but at the same time, we're looking for the right opportunity and staying in shape just in case that opportunity might present itself.
Well, good. We'll be rooting for that. One of the things that has become a storyline along with the start of the NFL season has been players protesting during the national anthem and the larger umbrella being social injustice against people of color and discrimination and wanting to see significant change. What is your reaction to that as we start to see more and more players take part in that on Sundays?
I am a big believer in advocating for what you believe in. I'm a big believer in that, everybody's voice has value and has weight and meaning, no matter your platform, no matter your influence. And, I loved what I saw. I think Benjamin Watson posted a Facebook comment last week and just talked about it. And it's from the heart. And it wasn't necessarily the content or what the stance or the side that he took. It was just the heart of it. He spoke from the heart. When he was speaking, it wasn't, I'm going to say this because it's politically correct or it's what I want people to agree with. It came from his heart. And as long as that's something that these guys are doing because that's where it's coming from, then I'm all for it. But the moment it starts to get into a publicity stunt or some type of way to get attention, that's where I draw the line. And, I believe that in order to seek change, in order to affect change, yet action must come about. And so, that's what it is. Social justice and social change is just that. It's more of it's the vocal, it's speaking. What I would really encourage those guys to do is to go much further than that. Obviously, we're in the NFL season right now, so there's not much you can do. But instead of just talking about it, put action to it and really activate what you're saying.
So you have done that. You started an organization called I'm Me, and not only have I read about it, but I know people who are working with your organization and making a difference in Haiti specifically. What is the vision for your group, for your charity, I'm Me?
The vision is simple. It's to reinstill the value and beauty of family. I mean, I'm crazy enough. I'm the oldest of 8 kids.
Wow.
My family, believe it or not, my family is everything to me. I mean, I am who I am because of my family, whether it be, if I failed, I had my family that would pick me up and encourage me and discipline me if I needed. But if I succeeded, they were the first ones to give me a high five and tell me that they're proud of me and that they love me. And, I believe that every child should have that opportunity and have that support structure. And I'm not just talking about from blood. I'm talking about the love and nurture and support of of that type of environment. And so my brothers and I went to Haiti in 2012 and met some orphan children and just started asking them what they wanted. And almost every single one of them's response was some type of family. They wanted their mom, they wanted their dad, their brothers. And so our vision is to give those children family. It may not be their direct blood mothers and fathers, but to give them an opportunity and put them in a family structure. And then also to prevent the abandonment of children by giving the moms and dads jobs so that families can stay together.
Man, you talk about putting your heart into something. That's something that that type of work, working with children, with orphans, that can just rip your heart out. Even while you know you're doing good things, it's got to be difficult to do.
It is. And, it's because you feel so helpless. And you start to see the overwhelming numbers and statistics of, there's 167 million orphans in the world. And so you start to see that and you start to look at what we've done in 2 years and start to think, well, how much can I really do? And how much can one person, one organization really do in the grand scheme of the issues that we're trying to affect? And, it can become overwhelming and it can become discouraging if you let it. But, we've been able to focus in on who we are and what we're doing and the kids that we have been able to, the lives that we have been able to impact and touch, and the 12 beautiful kids that we've rescued out of a terrible situation and have given them homes, some with special needs, some just in some trafficking situations. And those 12 kids, forget the 167 million. What matters to us is those 12. And so we'll continue to grow. We'll continue to improve and add on to those children. But those 12 kids know that they're loved and know that they're known. And people who come to Haiti and visit them with us know that as well. And, it's difficult, but we can only do what we can do. And it starts somewhere. It starts with one person, one child. And we're making that progress as we go.
Free agent wide receiver David Nelson spending a couple of minutes with us here after hours on CBS Sports Radio. So you partner with a couple of runners that you have in the New York City Marathon. How does that work? How do you raise money for your organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to ask you that, too. I'm going to have you maybe have you fundraise for us as well. I'm just trying to find any willing and able party that will go and do it because it's not necessarily – that's not the fun part of the job.
No, I know.
But it's New York City Marathon is it's the largest and most prestigious marathon in the world. And typically and traditionally, you could not run in the New York City Marathon unless you qualified. You have these people who are professionals at marathon running, which blows my mind. And so about 30 years ago, the New York City Marathon opened up spots for charities so that they can kind of maybe take the spot and then allow some runners to fundraise on their behalf to run. And so this year we actually have some runners. One of them is my mom. One of them is my girlfriend who actually lived in Haiti. One of them is Mike Golick from ESPN's Mike and Mike.
Yeah.
One of them is Craig Conover and his girlfriend from Bravo's Southern Charm. And so Tim Brown's son, Taylor Brown, is also one of those. And we just have some people who, whether it be a celebrity or whether it be supporters or just people who want to help. Yes, they're going to have to run 26.3 miles on November 6th here in New York City, but they're also, from now until then, fundraising. And they've each committed to raise $10,000 from now until the marathon. And it's going to bless our organization in just a tremendous way. But it's been cool to see that people who know us and all the ones who are running for us they've all said it. They're all running on behalf of those kids, and they're running on behalf of the spirit of the orphan, and spirit of what those kids, the fighting mentality, the facing adversity and overcoming it. And none of them have ever run a marathon before.
Oh my gosh!
Because of the inspiration from those kids, they're going to take a step of faith and step out there and make this happen for them.
That is amazing. I can't even fathom running 26 miles, but if I were ever going to drag my butt through it would be something like this. Because you're right, that gives you a reason to keep going.
You are right. I'm a sprinter. I'm an athlete. I've actually, believe it or not, I've actually never ran farther than a mile at one time.
Come on. Ever?
Ever. Because, in football, we run a route, and then
right.
It's 4 to 6 seconds long, and then you have 40 seconds till the next play. And so all of the training that we do is sprint. You do across the field, 50-yard sprint, 60-yard, but never have had to run farther than a mile. And so I still have never, and probably will never, have no desire to. But you got that right. Last year we had a girl that ran for us, and she actually had a stress fracture in her ankle about a week before the marathon. And, we gave her every reason and excuse to step out and to back out. And she's a girl that had been to Haiti with us probably 10 times and just was really knew the kids really well, and basically said back to me of, how could I step out and not run this marathon because of a stress fracture whenever those kids have been through so much and they continue to press on and continue to go and continue to move. And so if they can, so can I. And I want to make sure that I represent them well. And so she ran it and didn't stop and ran the whole thing and killed it. And so it's just been so good. And the kids in Haiti know about it and they love it and they send pictures and they make signs. And so, it's been really cool to have this kind of unilateral support system of, the kids are supporting the runners are supporting the kids, and hopefully we can find a community of people supporting our runners as well.
Awesome. To see some of the pictures and to find the link to the website to read more, you can follow David on Twitter at DavidNelson86, which we hope to see that number again on the field soon. David, it's great to talk to you. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.